Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to what is already day number 2 of the Automation Days Asia 2021. It is a great pleasure to see all of you back again at our conference. Thanks so much for taking the time today to participate, and I hope the program that we've composed for you today is going to give you a lot of new insights into the world of automation. Today's program will continue from yesterday. And where yesterday was focused mostly around inspirational topics from a variety of different domains in automation, today we're going to roll up our sleeves and actually look at some more in-depth technological solutions. We once again have prepared a full program for you. Before I, however, get started, I would like to say again a word of appreciation for our sponsors. As you all know, you are able to participate in this event for free. And this event would not have been possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Most notably, Symphony Summit AI, who is our platinum sponsor for the event. Additionally, I would like to thank PeopleCert, the Service Automation Framework Alliance, and UiPath for making contributions towards this program. It is truly an honor to have so much support so that we can continue to provide these kinds of conferences completely for free. Another key thing that I would like to start with today is to make you aware that there's also a mobile app on which you can follow the entire program. If you go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and you look for Backstage, you can find the application, and with your information as well as the event and your registration number, you can start to follow all of the sessions also from any kind of mobile device. We received some questions about this yesterday, so I kind of wanted to bring your attention to the fact that this is possible as well. For today, we have composed a full program with expert sessions again, from a variety of different topics. In the next 2 minutes, I'll give you a quick highlight of what you can expect for today and what kind of sessions you would like that you can bookmark into your agenda to attend for today. We're going to get started after my introduction with looking at Tomasz Gaczynski, again from UiPath. Yesterday, Thomas presented the hyper-automation journey and looked at the conceptual elements of how to make RPA work in practice. Today, we're going to take a much more of a deep dive, and Thomas is going to show a live demonstration of how to build your first robot in UiPath. So we're going to be seeing how to build a first solution. After that, I have the opportunity to present one technique which is coming out of the service automation framework and which is known as service automation blueprinting. I'm going to take you on the journey on how to construct this automated catalog of services and how you can start to define automated services from a conceptual point of view. After this workshop, we're going to see another great system in action. And Dev and Madhur are going to show how you can build self-service portals with Summit AI. Highly encourage you to join this session as well, as you will see a practical demonstration on how the concepts of RPA and service automation can be made available through self-service interfaces. Then around lunchtime, we will have an in-depth panel discussion. And I'm tremendously pleased today that we have a panel of experts from Friesland Campina, Malaysian Airlines, and the Summit Group again. I really look forward to discussing digital transformation with this expert panel during the lunch break. After that, we're going to switch towards the technology that is provided by Amazon. And Vipul will show how he became the RPA MVP for 2 years in a row and share his insights on how to develop creative solutions. We will end today's program with Gunjan, who is going to teach us around AI-driven virtual assistants. So once again, we will have a full program. We'll end today's conference around 3 p.m. with some closing remarks from me. I will recap on the last 2 days and summarize some of the key lessons learned and invite you for next year's conference. So a full program again, and I really want to thank you again for participating in this conference. We're going to get over towards Thomas for the first introduction. We have seen Thomas before, and Thomas is the RPA consultant from UiPath. Thomas is actually the person I reach out to whenever I don't know it anymore. And he has a very strong passion around RPA technology. Thomas, the floor is yours, and I really look forward to your session.
Thank you for a great intro, Jan Willem, and good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we had a quite interesting intro, at least I believe that's how you look at it, about RPA, but today we may have a number of newcomers, so let me start with a quick intro and reminder session, and then we'll jump into a live demo straight away. Hopefully you can see my presentation slide right now.
Yes, it's all visible.
Awesome. So let's get going. So you see, I would like to, first of all, make sure that we have a clear understanding what RPA is about. Well, there is a definition that I borrowed from McKinsey's webpage, and it states, RPA, short for Robotic Process Automation, is a type of software that mimics the activity of a human being in carrying out a task within the process. Well, that's something very important to understand what software robots are. In short, they try to emulate the way that people work with computers, with applications. So if there is a button on your screen you have to click in order to complete a process or a task, well, a robot will try to click it. If there is an input field that needs to be populated with data, a robot will try to fetch this data and then type it into accordingly. So when you think about software robots, like a UiPath robot, it is a little bit like a digital employee that can be trained to perform the tasks on your computer by emulating what regular business users do. But there is a second and very important part to this definition that states, robots can do repetitive stuff more quickly, accurately, and tirelessly than humans, freeing them to do other tasks requiring human strength such as emotional intelligence, reasoning, judgment, and interaction with the customer. And that is true, because robots are really fast, right? The robot makes no mistake if implemented properly. Robots never get tired. But a lot of processes contains a lot of activities that require some more sophisticated skills, like being able to identify, let's say, your speaker sentiment. Sometimes you need to use emotional intelligence to understand the context and the message itself. Sometimes you have to perform reasoning, judgment, or even planning using incomplete data. So these skills are very natural to us people, but a robot, in cases like this, falls short to what we can offer. So this means that RPA success relies on the combining robot strength and human strength, putting them together and making sure you're more productive, you're more cost efficient, and you are automating. But let me give you an example here. Let's say we have a finance and accounting process. I described it briefly yesterday, but today I'd like to cover it once again to make sure we're all on the same page. And going back to my process, it's supplier invoice processing. And if it's completely manual, you will most likely have an accountant or a group of accountants associated or assigned to do this process on a daily basis. If our invoices come through email, well, we will have an accountant, let's call him John, to open an email, go through each and every email. When it finds an attachment being an invoice, he will save this invoice. He will then open it to make sure that everything he expects to be in the invoice is already there. And then he will log into ERP solution or some accounting system, retype all the data from the attachment. If everything is in order, John will finalize this transaction. He's done with invoice number 1. Now he's back to his email inbox, and again, he's opening another email, saving attachments, validating attachments, and typing all the data into an ERP system. But now, bam, we have a problem. Something didn't work. System dropped some error message or some discrepancy has been found. In case like this, or in a situation like this, our John needs to start thinking a little bit more, needs to start using his brain a little bit more, because now he needs to deal with an issue. He may need to look into his experience, may need to look into his knowledge, may need to show some creative thinking skills or creative problem solving skills, and eventually handle this exception. Well, when John is done, he will finalize this transaction and will go back to his email inbox for invoice number 3, number 30, and invoice number 300 over and over again. So you might have already noticed something. I have a lot of blue boxes here and only one yellow box. These blue boxes represent what we call the low value work, hands work. This is where we ask an experienced employee, for example, to do tasks such as saving attachment that can be performed by a 5-year-old kid, right? So you see, we're literally, instead of leveraging the true value of our employee, his brain, his knowledge, his creative thinking skills, we're asking him to type and click and type and click and type and click over and over again. So this is definitely not the perfect situation. And this is where RPA comes to the rescue. What we can do is we can simply get a robot involved, and this robot will take over all the manual, repetitive, tedious tasks while letting John work with his brain more frequently. So if I try to visualize it a little differently, imagine this blue and yellow stripe represents John's day at work. You can see that John's day without automation in place is filled with hands work with occasional episodes of brains work. And working this way, John will complete his work, but probably he will complete only 100 transactions every day. If we get the robot involved, if we deploy a robot and let this robot work hand in hand with John, we will be able to take majority of these manual, repetitive, boring tasks, hand it over to a robot, and let John focus on working with his brain. Right? You see, this is the true way of leveraging RPA-based automation. You save money, you save time, and you make better use of what your employees bring to your company. You simply increase the value of work. And people often ask me, what can robots do? Well, I will show you today what robots are capable of. Of course, we'll just brush the surface, but nowadays robots are really powerful. UiPath robots can log in and interact with practically any application. They can read, write, move, organize files and folders. They have skills we don't have, such as reading and writing directly to and from databases. Robots never get tired, so if we ask them to go through hundreds of pages and scrape the data from it, well, they will do it with no concern. Robots can also interact with applications programming interfaces, like a special backend channels that can be used to achieve faster and more reliable automations. We can also read documents and extract data from these documents using robots. Robots have become really good at getting data from all the documents that flow into your organization, whether it's customer invoice, supplier invoice, whether it's customer purchase order. We can get those documents processed by robots in a fairly automatic way. Of course, robots can work with emails, attachments, and then robots, being machines, are really good at making calculations and following business rules almost religiously. And if you ask me about use cases, well, opportunities are endless. As long as your process is performed on the computer, is manual, tedious, repetitive, high volume, follows a well-defined set of rules, we can automate. And what I'm showing you here, this is just a tiny, tiny tip of a huge iceberg, right? We have robots doing great job in HR services, supply chain, IT services. Robots automating thousands of processes across purchase to pay, order to cash, records to report in finance and accounting. And finally, robots doing a lot of great work in customer service, especially nowadays with coronavirus at large. But today, we're not going to talk too much about this long automation journey that can unfold to your company, but I want to talk about concept of a citizen developer. You see, one of the major advantages of RPA is the fact that you can build automations without knowing any programming language. Of course, if you have some programming background, understanding how to build automation will be a little faster. But with citizen developer concept, we have created a dedicated tool for non-technical people, those who have no idea how to program, and we want them to automate their work too. So what kind of people are citizen developers? Well, you see, in most of the companies, implementation of RPA-based automation will start on a bit more controlled and organized level. So dedicated and trained RPA developers, people who are a little bit more technical, very well familiar with RPA, will start building automations for those important company-wide processes. So RPA developers are those full-time developers, skilled, trained, and very accustomed to automation processes. But these people will focus on those big and important processes. And remember, companies are not made of big and important processes only. They also have a number of challenges that are small, affecting simply one individual or maybe a small group of individuals. And for solving problems like that, like I said, smaller ones, we will have power users, users who have went through UiPath Academy and learned a little bit more, and regular business users who will act as citizen developers. And these citizen developers are really expected to have no technical knowledge, and I'll explain what it takes to become one of them. But going back to what I said is we have created a studio tool, and it has two flavors. One is UiPath Studio that is dedicated, like I said, to those experienced, trained RPA developers, and they will take care of tasks assigned to them by Center of Excellence or by your management team. And like I said, you may be a little surprised, but they will probably focus on 3 to 7% of these big, important company-wide business critical processes. But there is so much extra automation potential in the company that those RP developers won't be able to touch. And this is where opportunity opens up for you. Business users who will use Studio X, a special version of our studio meant to be used by non-technical users to automate their daily work. So what do we expect from a citizen developer? Well, it's great if you have some analytical thinking skills. Well, it's great if you can describe your problem, actually. Some people have it a little tough to say what actually is the challenge, but the moment you can clearly understand it and clearly word it, you are on a great way to achieve it. We want our citizen developers to be able to take a business process and split it into smaller steps, create compartments and address them individually. If they are asked, we want these citizen developers to draw a basic diagram of the process and simply to help others understand what's going on. And if you're comfortable with Excel and you know how to create tables, how to sort and filter data, how to summarize data via pivot tables and use VLOOKUPs, use formulas or create conditional formatting, use macros, but not to write them, just use them, you are very good to go. So as you can see, none of these items mentions here programming skills, and this is exactly what UiPath Studio X is about. So when you work with UiPath Studio X, you will focus on automating your daily tasks. You know, these small things, the small problems that affect your team's day on a daily basis. You will build automations that will run on your desktop and will use what we call attended robots. You'll be using some simplified set of activities because some activities are maybe quite technical, but those are not applicable here. And we don't expect you to know what is the concept of a variable because, yet again, that may be a technical concept that may be a bit difficult to grasp. Of course, we'll focus on some Office suite applications, like work a lot of it with Excel, with Outlook, with Word, PowerPoint, but we are not limited to those. We will, of course, benefit from intuitive and automated error handling as a citizen developer, and will automate desktop and web applications. The great thing about citizen developers is you can start really, really quickly, automate very simple tasks, very simple processes, and as you work, you will learn more how to automate. And as you learn, you will be able to automate more of your work. So this is what citizen developers will be doing and will be capable of achieving. How do they get there? Well, first of all, if you want to learn anything about UiPath, how to build robots, how to understand processes from RPA analyst point of view, and on, sign up to UiPath Academy. It's a completely free of charge training facility, and all the courses you will find there, you can run them at your own pace and quickly learn. While you're learning from Academy, you may want to download UiPath Community Edition, which is a fully functional, free of charge version of our software, meant for private purposes, personal purposes, and for educational purposes. If you're learning with Academy, if you're practicing with Community Edition, you might as well take a look at our UiPath forum, and you will find there a lot of best practices, a lot of tips and tricks. And if you get stuck, of course, you will find the answers you need there. So this is what I will really recommend you to try. Just go type in your web browser UiPath Academy, and you will be guided how to become UiPath or citizen developer. But let's get to the chase. Let's take a look how robot building looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my UiPath Studio, and this shouldn't take a lot unless my computer, it should take a lot of time unless my computer is already enjoying his weekend. Okay, so what we will, while Studio is starting, oh, it's okay, coming up here, you can see that in settings, if I go to settings, I have a section license and profile. I can choose if I want to use UiPath Studio for more complex and unattended automations, or I want to use UiPath Studio X. And UiPath Studio X is for business users looking to automate tasks for themselves and in their immediate teams, ideal for users with limited or no experience writing code. So we're going to stick to UiPath Studio X, and now we will create a new task. Give it a name. Okay. And we'll quickly create. We're getting there because Studio X is setting up a workspace for us, but let's talk about use case that we will automate in here. Imagine I'm this accountant, and my job is to receive a list of journals that I'm expected to post on a daily basis. Okay, so I have an Excel sheet that will be either sent to me via email, or maybe I will find it somewhere in shared folder. And this Excel sheet will look like this. Every row here will represent a single transaction that I have to post. I will have 3 values that I will have to paste into my accounting system. And upon successful completion of transaction, I will have to update transaction number in here. So this will be my data source, and this will be my desktop application that I will have to populate this data, click accept button to complete transaction, and finally record this number over here. So let's start automating. First of all, I can see my Studio X have set up a workspace for me. A very quick explanation what we have in here. This is our main canvas. This is where we will be dragging and dropping all these activities that we want the robot to perform. And speaking about activities, on the left-hand side, we have the activities panel, where we will find all what we need to automate. And what is activity? Well, activity is the small action that you do when you interact with your computer in order to complete a task. You press a button, you type in some data, you open a web browser, you start an application, you minimize, maximize, on and on, right? So we will be using those to tell our robot what to do. So let's start. First thing is we need to get data from this Excel sheet, okay? If I want to find activities that are related to Excel, I can simply come to Excel, to my search panel here, type in Excel, and I can find all the out-of-the-box activities that are related to Excel itself. I have a dedicated activity called use Excel file, and this one is meant to open an Excel file. So if I drag and drop it here, now Studio will ask me to configure this activity before I move forward. First of all, I'm being asked about the file. What I can do here is I can simply open the project or the file picker here, find my transaction list document or sheet, and then you can see it's already here. The red exclamation mark is gone. Of course, this is a very simple way of picking up a file. We can have it done in a dynamic way. We can have it done in more flexible way. But for simplicity, let's start with this one. Next thing I have here is a reference. Reference is just a friendly name that will help us recognize this file in or throughout our automation. You can imagine we can build automations that will have multiple Excel sheets involved, and we want to have an easy way to recognize them. So I'm gonna give it the name transaction list. A little bit more properties here. Do we want to save changes? Yes, we will be saving changes. And do we want to create if not exist? No, because we expect this file to exist. Okay, cool. So we have our Excel open, and now you can see we have to process it row by row. If I want to process it row by row, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for another activity that is called for each. I have a couple of for each activities related to, for example, for each row in data table, for each file in the folder, for each email. But I also have one that's called for each Excel row. So if I just drag and drop it here, now I can see that again, Studio is expecting me to configure it. What I have a problem with, Studio is asking me what data set from your Excel file would you process? And now what I can do is I can click this plus button. You can see my transaction list shows up here in the menu. And what I can do is I can click indicate in Excel. And the moment I click it, Studio opens up my Excel sheet. Now I can highlight the data that I want to process, find the UiPath extension and click confirm. Okay, so now let's close this again. Now you can see that we have the range that I selected in Excel copied into this input field. But at this stage, some of you may say, hey, what about more dynamic scenarios? Now you have only 5 records, but what if next Excel comes with 20 records? Well, that is a valid point, right? So what we're gonna do, instead of sticking to a fixed range, we're gonna come to a transaction list and we're gonna tell Studio or Robot in future, just take everything is what is inside our sheet 1. And because we have headers, if I click this checkbox, our headers will be automatically skipped and we will go only through the data. Awesome. So you can see that now with 2 activities, what I have done is I open an Excel file and now I have ready to process it row by row. Next thing is to copy the data into my business application. This is the business application I have here. And yet again, I will go to my search panel and look for activity called use. You can see I have use Excel file, use PowerPoint, use Word, use many different programs here, but I have also one that's more generic called use application and browser. If I just drag and drop it here, now Studio is asking me to indicate application that I want to work with. I'm going to click this indicate application to automate. And now Studio has switched to user interface discovery mode. It's trying to understand what applications are currently open on my desktop. So this is File Explorer. this is my taskbar. And if I roll my mouse over here, click, Studio will take a nice screenshot and will recognize my intentions as one that I want to work with anytime. So what we can do now, first of all, we want to populate this input field with a value from column cache in from our Excel sheet. How do I do it? Well, how would you do it if you were a person? You would type in the data. So let's look for activity called type in. See, I have type into activity, and now I can tell, hey, I want to type into this input field. You can see now Studio is again breaking down this application into smaller components, trying to understand which of the user interface element is an input field, radio button, and on and on. So if I click on this one, Studio will make sure that it can uniquely identify this field. No mistake will be made. It's showing the green highlight here, so it says that everything is perfectly fine. So now I already told Studio where I want to type my data into, but there is a question that remains. What do I want to type in there? So what I can do is I can click this plus button. You see now I'm iterating through my Excel file, and every row is saved as current row. So if I want data from my current row, I'm going to pick it from the menu and choose cache in. Of course, now I can do drag and drop for all the other input fields, but we at UiPath are a little bit quirky, I would say, because if we can save you 10 seconds of your life, we will try. So instead of me dragging and dropping all these activities and configuring them individually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a recorder. You see, there is a button here for a web application or desktop application recorder. The moment I click it, now Studio will ask me if I want to start recording, and I can now choose my input field. Studio has recognized this as an input field, and it's asking me if I want to put in something. I'm going to put a dummy value for now, 1000, and I click confirm. Now recorded activity shows up here. I can do the same thing for my second input field. Again, let's put some dummy values for now. And last input field, again, I'm going to put 1000 and click confirm. So you see 3 activities have been recorded, and there is one more we need to complete, is to press the accept button. So if I click it, here again, it's added to my recording. And if I click save, recorder now takes all my recorded activities. You see 1, 2, 3, and click button 4, puts it automatically back to my work. Now I need to just make a tiny adjustment, and instead of using this dummy value that I used before, I'm going to say take current row cache in, here take current row, this time on as check, and last one take current row not on as check. Click of the button has been recorded before, so we don't have to use click activity anymore, but we still have one more task to do. We need to record this number and copy it to Excel sheet. You see, if you were working with this application and you tried to copy this, you wouldn't be able to do it because I cannot select it. The way someone designed this application is, I would say, atrocious, and I cannot select and copy and paste it. You would have to manually type this value. Imagine the opportunity for making mistake this situation opens up. Luckily, robots have a couple of skills that can help in situation like that. I can look for activity called getText, drag and drop it here, and tell Studio, hey, I want to grab this text, and as it proceeds. Okay, so now Studio is asking about another thing. where do we want to save the value that we just grabbed? Yet again, click plus button, choose current row, and column transaction number. So you see, we're done. Now we can actually give it a go and see if it works. So I'm going to start my robot and see what happens. So robot is booting up right now. And Excel sheet is coming up, and the robot is now typing in all the data we needed. Okay, you can see that transaction number 1 has been processed, transaction number 2 has been processed, and now transaction 3 is being processed too. Actually, now I'm showing you all of that. The robot is working in the foreground, working with these applications in front of my eyes, but I can actually have this automation to run in what we call PIP, picture in picture. So if I try to run it in picture, now I can actually close this, and robot will open a special dedicated window with another copy of my desktop and will start performing the same activities inside this window. So the great thing about this is that now I can start, for example, Notepad. Okay. So let me get my Notepad out of the way. And while robot, it's taking a little longer to start this time. While I'm doing my work, writing emails, preparing reports, doing something way more important than clicking and typing, robot will work. Hey, come on, robot. Robot is starting up right now. And robot will do it without any collisions with me. So this is one of the greatest advantages of this approach, because now I can use the same computer to do my work, my new work that is leveraging my brain, my mental skills, while robot is minding its own business, running on my computer, doing all the manual work that I don't have to do anymore. So as you can see, this is a really, really powerful combination of features with a very powerful idea of people working hand in hand together in order to achieve operational excellence. I want to show you one more thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask this robot to stop. It has actually completed. But let's say I have another request coming from my boss. And my boss sends me, okay, the moment you complete all the postings, I want you to send me an email with this attachment. So what I can do now is I can minimize my activity, and I can look for email related activities. Oops. So I'm going to be using Outlook here. Use Outlook application. I can put it behind here. Now I can choose the account that I want, the email account that I want to work with. I'm gonna choose mine, give it a name, and now if I want to send email, okay, let's put it here. I can configure it properly. For example, here to, let's say we put some text, john@com. Okay, we're gonna say, hey, I don't want to CC anyone. I'm gonna put a subject here. Let's call it, let's say, transaction list for today. Of course, we can make it way more interesting. We can add some additional parameters here to make this topic flexible. But for the sake of time, I'm just gonna stick to a simplified email. And finally, what is our Our studio is just giving a warning message. We're going to keep it to simple text body. Let's put some text. Dear John, this is the list of completed transactions. That's how nice we are. And we're going to pick an attachment we want to send. There's my transaction list here. and on and on. So now, if I take a quick look at my transaction list once again, let's reset it back to one that has no numbers in here. Let's delete and save it. Let's run my robot again. This time here. Okay, so robot is starting up right now. While robot is starting, I'm going to start my Outlook because we expected to see an outcome there. Okay, let's give robot a few minutes to finish the work. Okay. Okay, robot is working. Another 5 seconds and we should be done. Okay, here we are. Robot is now cleaning up its desktop after itself. And if I take a quick look at my drafts, you can see that there is an email here. My email has the attachment that we were hoping for. And come on, you can see all the data we expected to be there are already there. So this is how RPA looks like. This is what citizen developer concept is about. And this is how UiPath has made it a reality everyone can benefit from. This is everything I had prepared for you today. Jan, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take some of them. Hello? Oh, I think we might have some technical problems here. Maybe Jan got disconnected. So what I'm gonna, let's see if I can see some questions in here myself.
Hi,
How
Thomas.
does the robot deal with the changing application interface on mobile screens? Well, you see, robots do not rely on user interface itself. They do not look at the pixels that we people see. When you have a robot built for a specific application, the robot will actually try to go inside this application's memory, identify its user interface tree, and then tap in directly to those components that you as a person don't see. So even if application will change its appearance, the field is moved from left to the right, the application theme is changed, you will have a robot most likely find the right input field, right button along the way. But if it's not the case, if the change is quite dramatic, remember, this is RPA. You can adjust the robot in a matter of minutes and have it working again.
Hi, Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jan. I'm answering some questions here. Do we still have a little bit of time?
Yeah, we absolutely did. For some reason, it remains technology. So I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. So I just logged in back again.
No
So I'm
worries.
very happy to be back in the session, obviously.
Happy. So let me take another question. So there is a question here. So UiPath is positioned for citizen developer and do not need ICT to set the RPA up. Well, we do support the RPA developer concept, but we are a proper enterprise automation suite company. So this means that we offer an enterprise grade software that is most of the time implemented first, on the ICT, I would say, level. But as company gets more mature, as company gets more used to RPA based automations, they start to open up to citizen developer and have their employees to, help themselves. But remember, you don't have to rely on your company at all. You can sign up to UiPath Academy, download UiPath community version, and if you would like to benefit from it or use it, you simply install it at home, and all of this is available for you free of charge. Okay, So now the question is, will UiPath work on Linux on AIX? UiPath robots with our new release 2021.10 that is scheduled to come around 2 weeks from now, UiPath robots will be able to run on Linux. But most of the platform components will be either available on the cloud or they still require Windows. But the short answer to your question is, by all means, we already actually have, but we'll release our Linux robots in 2 weeks from now.
Well,
So
that's really great news, Thomas, because that's a question that I've been receiving many, many times over so far. So that's an excellent announcement as well.
So do I have time for another quick one?
Yeah, we absolutely have time for one more.
Sure. So there's a question about, that's a very, very common question. Can a robot access website that requires hardware token code or with CAPTCHA? Well, definitely the answer is yes. But remember, there is something called business ethics, right? If someone has put CAPTCHA in place, most likely in the terms and conditions, you will find a nice statement saying that only human interactions are allowed. With robots, you can break the CAPTCHA. You can solve the CAPTCHA and you can still get the data. But remember, you're getting the data that belong to someone. So make sure that this person is, or this business entity is happy with it. If you're asking about token code, oh yeah, we have seen some interesting implementations here. We have seen tokens being sent to phone, right? And then someone had to type it in. So we had phone to forward the message to an email. Robot would pick it up from an email, and the robot would type in the challenge. If you have a physical token, that's a little trickier, but remember, robot can do 99% of the work. The only thing that it will ask you to help with is to type in the token. So you can start this robot, have it do all the work. When it comes to the stage where you have to type in a challenge code from the token, you will type it in and then hand it over back to the robot to complete the work.
So that means the whole process is automated with the exception of that one manual step. Is that correct?
That's exactly how it is.
Good. Great. Well, Thomas, as always, your demos are always very engaging. You see the questions coming in and all the reactions from the audience. So it's always a topic that is, I think, very close to everyone's heart and also something that they want to learn more about. So obviously, in this short period of time, it's just a quick demo that we can provide. But if you want to learn more about the courses or the platform, please, by all means, feel free to reach out to us after this session. Once again, Thomas, I would like to thank you for all your great demonstrations today. It's really been a pleasure to have you. And thanks again also to UiPath for supporting the event in such a great extent.
Happy to help. And for a message for everyone, go get automating.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thomas.
All the best.
Good. In our next upcoming session, which will start in around 10 minutes, we're going to start diving into the approach of service automation blueprinting. And this approach will start at exactly 10 on the hour. So I look forward to seeing all of you back in 10 minutes for our next session. Thanks, everyone.